Right, 25 November 2023, and today I've got quite an interesting story that has developed over the past 3 days. And this story is to do with prominent media personality Trevor Ncube and Nelson Chamisa. It is well known that Trevor Ncube and Nelson Chamisa have been having a serious fight over the past few years, with Ncube accusing Chamisa of not having the necessary political leadership and skills, other skills. Ncube is always saying that Chamisa is not ready to lead Zimbabwe and is not leadership material. This is something that has been said over a very, very long time by Ncube. Ncube has been a prominent feature in the Zimbabwean political landscape, and he has spoken a lot about Chamisa and his leadership skills. He has also been involved in quite a number of attempts to form political parties in Zimbabwe. And so this particular week has been very eventful, with Ncube actually releasing a video. And this video, he speaks about a meeting that he held with Nelson Chamisa. And he says during that meeting, he told Chamisa that if he continues with the leadership style of Morgan Tsvangirai, he would not support him. And Chamisa has now responded to that video, and I would like to play that video so that we have context of what we're talking about here. And for those who came a bit late, I already said good evening, so don't be surprised if you see me continuing to talk. So if you go to Gambakwe.com, or in fact our websites are down again. Unfortunately, we are experiencing consistent and persistent attacks over the past few weeks. So our websites are down almost every day, but we're getting it sorted. So let me show you the video here, and I hope that it plays the way I want it to play. So this is our dashboard, obviously, on Gambakwe.com, and here we're experiencing massive load shedding as we speak in South Africa. So let's play the video here. I hope you guys are hearing this. Okay, I think you might not be hearing the video, so let me restart the whole process, and let's see if this is going to do what I want it to do. So let's not share this screen. Let's share the correct screen. I'm having load shedding, so you won't be surprised with the quality of our. So let's start here. I think I've got the correct video now. Okay.
Can I come and see you? He comes to see me. And to run a long story short, I say to him, Nelson, if you come up with the same politics that Morgan had, of tribalism, of being dictatorial, of having a kitchen cabinet and not listen to anybody, I'm not going to support you. Oh no, I'm going to have Lent and so forth, I'm going to listen to. And we continued, we invited him for board dinners and that kind of stuff. But I realized down the line, the young man does not listen to anybody. He doesn't listen to anybody. So,
okay, I think maybe I might not play this at all. Unfortunately, as I've got load shedding, I'm trying to sort out all the sound issues. But if you go to Gambakwe.com, you'll see a video that has been done by our guys there, which says Trevor Ncube exposes Nelson Chamisa. So that video, in that video, Chamisa is being talked about with a journalist by Trevor Ncube, and he says Chamisa visited him in his office, and he explained to him that if he continues with the leadership of Morgan Tsvangirai, of tribalism, and of not listening to advice, he's not going to be able to support him. So today, Chamisa's people have issued a statement with more detail, and this was on Twitter. So I'm going to take you through it, and then we're going to unpack what I know about Trevor Ncube and I'll also give suggestions on what Nelson Chamisa should do. So if anyone is having sound issues here, let's deal with them very, very soon. Unfortunately, I've got load shedding, so I don't even know what's happening. Most of my studio equipment is not working here. So Chamisa's response is, we have seen the video remarks by Trevor Ncube in which he attacks our leader Nelson Chamisa and says all sorts of things about him. We have our leader Nelson Chamisa, sorry, we have no problem with Ncube or anyone for that matter legitimately criticizing Chamisa as a leader, a hugely popular one at that. Ncube has a constitutional and legitimate right to criticize him and other political leaders. That is what should happen in a democracy. However, Ncube must stop crudely misrepresenting and manipulating one meeting he had with Chamisa 7 years ago for cheap political capital, publicly and relevance. In fact, he must stop lying about it. We have kept quiet throughout his lies and drama for a long time. I think we now need to set the record straight in the public interest to stop this charade. The facts are very clear on this issue. Ncube invited Chamisa to his office in Granite Side, Harare, where the AMH office operates from, on August 5, 2016, to discuss some local political issues, including the formation of APA. Ncube wanted Chamisa to be part of a process led by Nkosana Moyo. At that meeting, Ncube told Chamisa that he had had many consultative meetings in Zimbabwe and South Africa on APA project, and he claimed that he was supported by telecoms mogul Trevor Masiyiwa and many other prominent people, some of whom ended up with him as Mnangagwa advisors. Right, so this is the point that I was trying to make to you, and this is very significant. Chamisa here is bringing in, and I don't want to say Chamisa because I don't know if it's him who issued this statement, but it's obviously someone who has talked to Chamisa. And he says here, Ncube was forming APA, and he formed APA. He wanted, he told Chamisa that Trevor Masiyiwa was involved in the formation of APA. And remember, Tsvangirai was not yet dead here. Sorry, he was not yet late. He was alive at this point. And I will later on give you my own experience with Trevor Ncube on the APA issue with Nkosana Moyo. So I will let you have a bit more information about what happened with me and Nkosana Moyo and Trevor Ncube during this day or during this period. So at that time, Chamisa had just been appointed one of the 3 vice presidents of the MDCT led by the late Morgan Tsvangirai the month before. That was in July 2016. So he was not the leader of the MDCT at that time and didn't even know that he would lead the party one day. Okay, so I think let me look where I am here. In that meeting, Chamisa told Ncube that upfront that while he appreciated the invitation to join APA, he was not able to do so because he wanted to help Tsvangirai rejuvenate the MDCT post the 2013 elections and prepare for the 2018 elections. So Chamisa politely declined Ncube's offer to join APA. The idea was to use Chamisa's growing social base to back Moyo as APA leader in his presidential bid in 2018. Right, let's go to the next one. The meeting, which ran for close to 2 hours from around 9 a.m. to just before 11 a.m. And there's a photo of the meeting, ended on a somewhat sour note with fake smile because Chamisa had rejected the APA invitation, saying he was a loyal MDCT member and one of the leaders. Interestingly, it ended in prayer. Ncube gave Chamisa a book by Harvard business professor Bill George with Peter Smith's title True North, which is about leadership. Since then, Ncube had not spoken to Chamisa, not even once, except on 14 July 2021, when he sent a condolence message to him after a family bereavement. So Ncube is lying that he has engaged Chamisa on political issues and he doesn't listen. There's no such thing. It's just a needless, malicious campaign and posturing. Chamisa talks to many people and takes ideas and proposals from them. He implements what is strategic and practical for the CCC given political conditions and circumstances. They claim that Chamisa doesn't listen, does not have structures, works alone, and a dictator is nonsense. He is a democratic leader who believes change can only be secured through democratic elections. Some may not like his style, but that is normal in politics. There is a difference between style, strategy, and substance. In any case, why should Chamisa listen to advice coming from his rivals, advisors? Ncube is a non-Mnangagwa ally and works with his son-in-law at his media houses. So why on earth would Chamisa listen to the advice from that sort of a dishonest person who even lies about a meeting held 7 years ago in a totally different setting, time and space? That is ridiculous. Okay, so I think the rest of the stuff here is commentary, and I think the point is clear here. The Chamisa advisors are not happy with what has happened. If you look at what has been happening this week, there's been massive criticism of Nelson Chamisa on his style, and especially the constitution that was issued. It has brought a lot of questions on whether Chamisa is able to lead a democratic institution. And I've been asking a lot of people, obviously talking to people about the relationship between Chamisa, BT, people like Fadzai Mahere. These people were key and critical in the formation of the CCC. Obviously, Ncube Scala. The issue is, can Chamisa work with these people? And what is their role in the CCC? How did they lose their positions in the old MDC alliance? Because did they just wake up and Chamisa was now the president, and they lost all their positions? And how did that happen? So this is a legitimate question, and that is probably why you're seeing it featuring prominently in the Sengezo Shabangu issue. But let's go back to the issue that is here, and I want to unpack Ncube's role in Zimbabwean politics. And I was lucky enough to be very close to all the events that were happening around this period that Chamisa is talking about. So this flag, Ncube was very, very closely associated with this flag. In fact, when he was in Johannesburg, I happened to go there to a meeting that was addressed by Pastor Ivan Mawarire. And Ncube had actually brought Pastor Ivan Mawarire to the meeting. He was the one who personally brought him there. He was the MC. I even shot a video where Ncube was speaking about the need for the National Transitional Authority. And that was the time when Pastor Ivan Mawarire was very, very popular. And there was rumors that Pastor Ivan was actually living in the house of Trevor Ncube. And I managed to film Ncube speaking and Pastor Ivan Mawarire speaking there. And as you know, there was also Fadzai Mahere in this flag. In fact, she joined a bit later. There was Masiyiwa there. Masiyiwa is very, very closely related in terms of all her activities, or was, with Masiyiwa. These were the prominent people. There was also people like Esi Lumumba. Esi Lumumba was very, very closely related to the whole this flag team because of his big, big following. So when I arrived at this meeting, I gave Trevor Ncube my business card. I'll never forget this. So Trevor Ncube was sitting at the front and I was filming, right? So I took my business card and I gave it to Trevor Ncube. And then I don't know what Trevor Ncube did, but when he finished the meeting, my business card was still where he was sitting. So I was like a bit taken aback to say, this guy, I gave him a business card so that we can have a meeting, but he didn't take my business card. So I was actually quite taken aback. Then I briefly talked to him, and I thought that was the end of it. However, he probably recorded my number somewhere, because a few months later, I got a call from the blue from Trevor Ncube, right? He just called me from nowhere. And he said to me, and I've said this story before, it's not a new thing. He called me and said he wanted me to do a sort of an interview with Dr. Nkosana Moyo. And if you go online, you'll see the interview that I did with Dr. Nkosana Moyo. And they called me to some place, a business park in Johannesburg. And on arrival there, I was shocked at the size of the crew. Like there was a whole crew for that interview. And there was no preparation or anything. Dr. Nkosana Moyo just sat here, and I sat here. There were no questions to say what questions are you going to ask. So we went through the interview. I think it was about an hour. And when Trevor Ncube didn't like the way it was going, he just stopped the whole thing and said, stop, stop, stop. We stopped the interview, and that was the end of it. That is how crazy the whole thing became. And obviously, I eventually moved around and talked to Dr. Nkosana Moyo's guys, and I became very, very close to a lot of the guys inside. And what he says about Chamisa and the leadership style and the meetings, obviously, this was unknown to me. I didn't know that they eventually had a meeting. But it's true that a lot of top prominent people do talk to Trevor Ncube, and Trevor Ncube is always trying to come up with ideas. He's always trying to come up with solutions. But it's also true that Trevor Ncube is closely related to the Mnangagwa government. And here, I'm not talking about arm's length work. Mnangagwa has been supporting and sponsoring Trevor Ncube for a very, very long time. If you look at his conversation with Trevor show, it's one of the biggest shows in Zimbabwe. I follow it very, very closely. I think every week at Gambakwe, we actually extract information from the conversation with Trevor. I've asked my guys to follow that show and publish whatever he's saying there when there's a relevant person. This was being sponsored by Titan Law, and Titan Law is owned by the Mnangagwa's daughter, who is a lawyer. She was sponsoring Ncube for a very, very long time, before the son-in-law of Mnangagwa then gave Ncube, I think that was $5 million US to buy the newspaper. So he's bought into the newspapers. I don't know how many percent, but he's bought a very, very big chunk of the newspapers that you see in Zimbabwe today. Newsday, I don't know what other newspapers Trevor Ncube has got. He's got a bunch of newspapers. And Mnangagwa's son-in-law, who is a multimillionaire, now owns a very, very big chunk of those newspapers. And the Mnangagwas will not just buy a newspaper and not control it, and not control the editorial policy. They have to control the editorial policy of the Newsday, the AMH, all these newspapers. They are basically now being controlled by the Mnangagwa family, who want to control information, not only political information, but the business narrative. They want to control everything. Take, for instance, the issue of cement. I've been telling guys in Zimbabwe that every bag of cement you buy now is now being owned by the Mnangagwas, to the point that the Mbudzi project has stopped, because when they run out of cement, there is nowhere else where you can buy that thing. You have to wait for them to produce, then you continue to build. So this issue that we're talking about here is not minor. It goes across the breadth of the political space in Zimbabwe. Is Trevor Ncube telling the truth? Is Chamisa unable to listen? And is Chamisa correct to say that this is sour grapes from Trevor Ncube, who wanted Chamisa to be part of APA? But remember, Trevor Ncube will never give Chamisa a position. If Chamisa had agreed to join APA, Trevor Ncube was never going to give him a position. Nkosana Moyo was not going to allow him to become a vice president, because Trevor Nkosana Moyo was controlled. He was being run. I could see it when I was with Trevor Ncube and Nkosana Moyo. Nkosana Moyo was being run. He was being controlled by Ncube. He could not. He was almost like an employee. The relationship between the two of them. You can go to the old video that I did. It was not a president and someone who is associated with him. Ncube was very, very controlling, was very, very in charge, and was probably funding most of the activities of Dr. Nkosana Moyo. And as you know, Ncube Dr. Nkosana Moyo had a fallout. There was a massive fallout between Dr. Nkosana Moyo and Ncube, where Ncube then cut off and switched off his phone. He changed his number, and Dr. Nkosana Moyo didn't know how to call him. There was a strategic fight between the two when Dr. Nkosana Moyo tried to assert himself. So that is the kind of person that Ncube is. He's very, very strong, and he's got very, very strong opinions about a lot of things. And I remember also there was an attempt by Nelson Chamisa to meet and discuss with Dr. Nkosana Moyo. He actually went to the house. I think they did a live together where Nelson Chamisa had visited Dr. Nkosana Moyo, but it never came to anything because Dr. Nkosana Moyo, as I said, was being run. He was not his own man. So I think the points that are being raised here, and I want to now go to the points that are being raised. And you must also understand the issue of the third force. Nelson Chamisa is in a very, very tight spot in terms of image because of the people that surround Nelson Chamisa. The people that surround Nelson Chamisa, they've got different objectives to Nelson Chamisa. And I deal with a lot of the guys. That is one of the biggest problems facing Nelson Chamisa. Whereas Chamisa has got a bigger agenda of becoming the president of Zimbabwe. Most of the guys who surround Nelson Chamisa, they do not have that agenda. They are satisfied with being MPs, councillors, and senators. That's what they want. Whereas Chamisa has got a broader agenda to transform Zimbabwe. And there was a point when something was set up called the generational consensus. And I think guys like Nkwananzi, Tinomambeu, and I think even Promise Nkwananzi, even Linda Masara at some point, everyone came around this idea of the generational consensus. That needs to become the core of Nelson Chamisa's ideas going forward. What he's doing now with CCC, unfortunately, it's not going to lead to a presidency because he needs a bit of a support structure. And I've been saying this for a very, very long time. At the moment, Chamisa has himself and the people around him who've got their own agendas. They can easily flip. If someone was to pay someone around Chamisa right now, it's possible. People could easily get paid. So Chamisa needs to go back to the ideas of the generational consensus. He needs to have a broad-based structure. And this structure must accept new people. Because what is happening now is new people cannot penetrate the structure that Nelson Chamisa has got. Only the old people who were there before, they're able to penetrate the structure. And this is where things are failing. Things are failing because when someone sees a new person coming in, they are thinking, what is going to happen to my position? Am I still going to be Chamisa's favorite? And this needs to be addressed. It's obviously not, it's not false to say that there is a bit of a problem there that needs to be addressed. If you want to be president, there needs to be a big structure. There needs to be new ideas coming in and being injected. And the case of Fadzai Mahere is quite telling. I don't know if it's possible for Mahere not to have a role in CCC because she's a woman and we don't have women in politics. So you probably need someone like that close to Nelson Chamisa, but not just as a member. She needs to have a structure. So you need to have people now taking positions. And who is Chamisa's vice president? That needs to be answered. You can't be Chamisa with no vice president. Those needs to be answered. So the executive, I saw Hope Chingono did a bigger document this week explaining this. You can't have a secret leadership structure. Like you can have a secret membership. That's possible. But you can't have a secret structure that says, if Chamisa is hit by a bus today, what happens? So that's succession planning. If Chamisa is not there, who do we ask? Who signs? Those things need to arise. They need to be addressed. But here, I think we need to address the response. And also Chamisa, he has responded through his people that he did not have this kind of meeting that Trevor Ncube is saying he had. And he is not someone who has been given advice by Ncube, which he ignored. And I think Chamisa feels very misrepresented here by the statements by Trevor Ncube. This is not a new video. We just published it this week. It gained prominence, and it's very interesting based on what was said in the constitution of the CCC. They sparked debate, and Nelson Chamisa was trending on Twitter this week because of that constitution. Everyone was making fun of the constitution of Nelson Chamisa, and many people have came in. If you look in the newspapers today, Dr. Love Moma Dube has spoken on it. Everybody has had a comment. Investment of Zimbabwe lecturers, they've talked about it. Prominent lawyers, and most of them are saying there's nothing wrong with that constitution. But as I said, there are issues around the leadership style of Nelson Chamisa. This is why these issues are coming up, and these need to be addressed. They need to be addressed before we go forward, because even if we were to do a negotiation and dialogue with ZANU-PF, what will be the outcome? Who is going to do what? These are very important questions that need to be addressed. But here, what is interesting, what is new is in this response, obviously, the revelation that Ncube claimed that he was working with Trevor Masiyiwa on the upper project. He was also working with prominent figures. So when we talk of prominent figures, I've previously said that Shingimunyeza was supposed to be the president of APA, and he was the advisor of Mnangagwa. Ncube himself became an advisor of Mnangagwa, and Ncube has sold his newspapers to Mnangagwa. So basically, these are facts. There is a lot to be said here. And in the early days of the Mnangagwa government, Masiyiwa had called for the lifting of sanctions. And after speaking about the lifting of sanctions, now that things have become like this, most people have gone away. They've not reversed their statements to now criticize Mnangagwa. Because if you say lift sanctions, give Mnangagwa a chance. If Mnangagwa then turns around and does what he's doing now, you must then come back and reverse your statement. You can't say lift sanctions, and then after 2 years, Mnangagwa starts abducting people and killing people and stealing elections, and then you keep quiet. You have to go back and say, in the early days, I said, please lift sanctions against Mnangagwa, and then now that he's doing this, please don't lift sanctions. Right, so this is basically what I need to say about this whole thing. Nelson Chamisa speaking out about the comments by Trevor Ncube, the incessant attacks by Trevor Ncube on himself and his staff. Right, this is it for today. And I want to read the comment. Trevor Ncube is one of the most critical people of Mnangagwa. Right, I want to tell you how Trevor Ncube is working. Trevor Ncube is the most hypocritical person on earth. MSI. Let me explain to you why. Trevor Ncube said his father, or I don't know, his father or his family members were killed during Gukrahundi. But he never. He's hanging around as an advisor of Mnangagwa. If you go today in the newspaper, he says Mnangagwa must address the Gukrahundi issue, right? But he's the advisor of Mnangagwa. What has he done about Mnangagwa in Gukrahundi? Obviously, Trevor Ncube is hoodwinking the people of Matebeleland. There's no way you can be an advisor of Mnangagwa for 5 years. And then nothing has happened on Gukrahundi, right? Nothing has happened on Gukrahundi. Mnangagwa set up a chief's thing, which was very nice. But then nothing has happened after that. And Ncube has said nothing about it. In fact, he has now sold his newspapers to Mnangagwa. This is crazy. I don't think he's critical. And his editorial stance, it's got a hidden attack on Chamisa. Look at what happened yesterday on the cholera issue. He blamed the Harare City Council. That's the first story on the news day. It's clear that he's trying to absolve the Zimbabwe government. And we've publicized the full speech by Hope Chingono. If you go to Gambakwe.com Facebook page, you'll see there what Hope Chingono said. It's not the city council. It is the government of Mnangagwa that is to blame. Okay, so I think I can go on and on here, and I appreciate your comments, guys. everything that you're saying here. I'm not canceling what you're saying, MSI. Yeah, I'm just saying to you, Ncube has been part of the problems in Zimbabwe. I remember the Mavambo Don thing. He was involved there. And that is the reason why Morgan Tsvangirai ended up not winning the elections. So he's actually a key part of all the problems that are happening in Zimbabwe. And the new revelations that we're getting here, it shows that he's been going here trying to get people to do one or two things. Who knows if he was not already working ED back in 2016. That is a possibility. And he was trying to recruit people into all these things that I was doing. And as I said to you, my own personal experience with Ncube shows me that he's a very, very in charge and in control person. He only does what he wants. I was telling you that he cut off Dr. Nkosana Moyo's phone number. Nkosana Moyo could not phone Ncube. He didn't know the number anymore. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Ncube is accusing Chamisa of exactly the things that he does. I had an interview which, during the interview itself, when he didn't like what was happening, he cut it. he told the full crew that we're not going to continue with the interview because he didn't like the questions that I was asking Dr. Nkosana Moyo. So basically, we're basically talking about the person here who does the very, very same thing that he's accusing other people of doing. But I think we've covered this issue. You can go and look at the full statement, and we're going to be publicizing this on Gambakwe.com as soon as our sites are up. Our sites have been down for a very, very long time due to various reasons. I don't know what's going on. We'll get it sorted. But it's very painful for us because we can't work. So anyway, let's see what happens tomorrow. This is very, very topical. This is very, very interesting. And I know people like Trevor Ncube, they don't respond to such things. But slowly, this information is coming out into the public. What is the role of Trevor Ncube in the political space in Zimbabwe? Has he been using his funds to support the democratic fight in Zimbabwe? Is he supposed to? Is he able to? Is it okay for him to just sit and watch while people fight? Is he not able to do more to support the democratic fight in Zimbabwe? Should Nelson Chamisa form better structures? Because the current ones obviously don't work. There's a problem. He's going to be in court months and months and months fighting all these issues. So I thank you very much for watching. This was a quick broadcast. As you can see, I'm in the dark. We've got stage 7 load shedding, which means we've got 7 hours of no power every day. So I'm going to have to be doing my shoots very, very early in the mornings. And tomorrow morning we'll be up looking at the Sunday newspapers. Thank you very much, everybody, and good night.